Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablin.
Hello, and welcome to episode 84 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This episode of the QCMP is sponsored by Midwood Guitar Studio, Charlotte, North Carolina's own boutique guitar shop located in Plaza Midwood. Midwood Guitar Studio not only has the finest selection of boutique guitars, but familiar names like Fender, Martin, Taylor, Two Rock, and many others. Whether it's a guitar, bass, amp, effects pedal, or a much-needed accessory, the knowledgeable and friendly staff at Midwood Guitar Studio will help guide you in the right direction for your next purchase. Midwood Guitar Studio also has a luthier on staff for all your repair needs. Visit their website at midwoodguitarstudio.com or stop in to see their unique shop at 1517 Central Avenue, Charlotte, North Carolina. By the way, if you have a business or would like to become a sponsor of the podcast, like our friends at Midwood Guitar Studio, drop me a line at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com and I'll discuss all the information with you. Also, if you have enjoyed the podcast and want to find out more about me, stop by MatthewAblin.com. There you'll find links to my events calendar, performance groups, the latest podcast episodes, and a host of other information. This month on episode 84 of the QCMP, I'm pleased to be speaking with Nathan Harris, a multi-talented touring and session guitarist, as well as a singer-songwriter. Nathan Harris, welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast.
Hey, what's going on, Matthew? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. All right, Nathan, are you originally from the Charlotte area?
No, so not originally. I've been in North Carolina like my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Harmony, North Carolina, which is just like an hour and change up 77.
Right.
And then just kept moving south down 77 through Statesville, and then went to school at Chapel Hill, UNC Chapel Hill.
Okay, cool.
And then came back, and my mom had moved to Lincolnton, so I was living in Lincolnton for a little bit. Then I was staying off Sugar Creek. I lived here in Charlotte for like a year, and ended up I actually moved back to Lincolnton. I had some financial issues that I'm sure we'll talk about. I think that's one of the things we talk about. We're going to talk about touring and everything, and so we'll get into that later. But yeah, I don't even live in Charlotte right now. Actually, I live in Lincolnton.
Okay, but you do a lot of work in Charlotte playing?
Oh yeah, I play here all the time. I jam here all the time. Most of the rest of my band lives here,
right,
in the surrounding area. This is like where the Flood is based. So I'm here all the time, and I teach in Huntersville, and I teach some private lessons around the Charlotte area, like up in University and stuff. So yeah, I'm around all the time. This is where I hang. I just live 45 minutes away, so gas sucks.
I'd say. So can you fill me in on your music background?
Yeah. So, well, how far back do you want to go?
Well, you're a guitarist, so I mean, we could start. Were you playing when you were a kid? Did you do like, cause you also sing too. So did you do choir at school? What's your background with all that?
So I guess like getting started, the first like memories I have really of music, my grandma had a piano, and I would like figure out stuff just kind of by ear, just like Mary Had a Little Lamb and stuff.
Right.
And then, I would sing in church and do like church plays, and, after elementary school and middle school, like in the summers whenever the school was done, we would do like 4-H camps and stuff, and go do little arts camps. So I was like always around music, but I guess the guitar didn't come in until actually my little brother, whenever I was like 8 or 9, so he would have been 6 or 7. We went on vacation to the beach, and we got like, I think it was like $20 for like souvenirs or something like that. And he asked my mom and dad if he could have more money and spend it on a guitar. And I was like, I'd already spent mine on like a t-shirt or whatever. And I was like, wait a minute, we can ask for more money. That's allowed. That's okay. Yeah. So he got a guitar. So he learned a couple of chords, and I remember giving him crap. I was like, Chase, like playing an instrument is hard. Like that's for like smart people. And like we're not like, like nobody in our family plays music. We're not that kind of people. And, he started learning. He learned the 3 chords. He had the little, like the sliders that slide in between the frets and tell you exactly where to put your fingers. And then he quit. He just stopped playing. Yeah. And my dad bought us like a little $5, like at a like yard sale special, like little guitar that he found. Like, I don't even remember what the brand was. So we had 2 of them. And then, so I learned to play like a couple of chords, just G, C, and D really, and like E minor or whatever, just like the cowboy chords with those little slider cards. And then Chase like stopped playing and I gave up, and he smashed his guitar, and then mine got broke somehow.
Did a Pete Townsend.
Yeah, he just decided that he wanted to. We were young. He was like 6 or 7. He was like, it's mine. I can do what I want with it. If I want to break my toy, it's my toy. And like, I didn't think anything of it at the time, because it was just another thing. I wasn't like really into any one instrument at that time. I really loved music. I always loved music, but what really got me hooked, I feel like, was probably like playing Guitar Hero, as bad as that is.
And no, it's not. I mean, if it brings you into the instrument, that's beautiful.
That's exactly what it did. I played with friends, and I was like, wait a minute, what if we did this with like real instruments? And so, my cousin had a guitar, and I would play her guitar. And then for one of my birthdays, she gave it to me, whenever I think it was 6th grade. So I would have been like 12 or 13. So I hadn't had a guitar for like 3-4 years at that point, and whenever we did have a guitar, I really didn't do much with it. But whenever I got her hand me down, it was an electric. It was like a little Ibanez, and so most of the time that I spent with the guitar from at that point, like I was doing honors chorus in elementary and middle school, and then I was doing middle school band around that time too. So like I had plenty of music going on, and still doing theater and stuff. So like I was well immersed in the arts at that point, but the guitar for me was just fun to mess with.
Right.
I would like take it home, and I would just take the whammy bar and be like, oh, wait a minute. So if I move my finger from here to here, it's the same as if I take the whammy bar and bend it from here to here, but it sounds different and it feels different. It's the same pitch. It's the same level of high and low in the dimension of sound.
Right.
But the way you're going about it is completely different. So I was like, that's really cool. I can't really like do that on my saxophone, which I totally could. I just didn't know how to do it.
Right.
There's alternate fingerings. There's the ways you can change your embouchure to bend your notes. Mm-hmm. There's so much that you can do with a saxophone to really, to change the timbre of the sound. But I just wasn't at that point with it yet.
Right.
So I would just mess with the guitar and play with it, and I'd learn a couple of songs, but, not really ever full songs. I remember learning the riff for Crazy Train, and I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I learned how to play Crazy Train. I was like, come look. And he comes in there, and I play the riff. I play the do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And as soon as it goes to the chords, I was just like, okay, that's it. Because I didn't know that part yet. I hadn't learned that part. And I was excited because I had learned. He goes, where's the rest of the song? And from that point on, like that I took that personally.
Yeah, I was like, I'm learning the rest of the song.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't learned the solo to that song.
It's not an easy song to play, actually.
Yeah, I need to learn the solo. Randy Rhoads is killing. He is so good, and that's one of the best guitar solos of all time. I feel like just in terms of just pure power, just like pure rock guitar. Like that's up there. That's on the Mount Rushmore of like rock solos.
What was the age that you really got the bug?
Really got the bug probably sophomore year of high school, because freshman or sophomore year of high school, because I had a couple of buddies on the soccer team that I would go hang out with them, and we would play. Like one of them had a ukulele, one of them had an acoustic guitar, and I would bring my electric.
15 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a general age range, I think, and it's I'd love to get some science fact behind it, but there's generally an age range, I think, when people get into music, really hardcore. And it's usually like something like, from like 12 preteen to like 15 maybe. That's like, I think the age range. Usually the friends I grew up with, it was like around 13. But at some reason, it's like at that point in everybody's life, that's it. They find something and they just grasp onto it at that point.
I mean, I had been like going and, I go to school and then go to whatever sports practice I had, whether it was like soccer or track or basketball. I played like Y League for a couple of years in high school. I would go from whatever practice, whatever obligations I had to do that day, and I would come home and mess with the guitar from the moment that I got my cousin's electric guitar. But it wasn't I didn't consider myself really catching the bug until I started learning to put it together with the stuff that I was actually learning music-wise. And it turned from tabs to music. It turned from it being like Guitar Hero with more buttons,
right,
to, okay, I understand that this is a grid. This is like a thing that we can use as a tool to create a way to express ourselves and to communicate with other people. And I want to play in a band now. And a lot of that had to do with, like being in 8th grade and 9th grade and seeing my friends. They played my buddy Thomas Palms. Shout out Thomas Palms, the coolest dude. He actually gave me my first gig that I ever played. And he was in a band since he was in like 6th grade or whatever. And in high school, they had a class it was called Small Ensemble 101 at Statesville High School.
Mm-hmm.
And
that sounds cool.
It's
like jazz program?
Rock Band 101. Seriously.
That's amazing.
And it was really great program because whoever was leading that program, I don't know them, but they would book the kids to play at like Relay for Life and Pumpkin Fest and Friday After 5 and all these events where you're getting the whole town of Statesville. Right. Like you're getting a couple thousand people, which isn't like huge for a town. It's not Charlotte Shout. It's not Love and Life, but like it's a big deal for those small towns.
Sure.
And to be able to be that young and be in front of that level of stage, that level of production in front of that level, like that amount of people, is hugely influential. So I was like, wait, if my friends are doing that, I want to do that. And I couldn't really get it going throughout high school. I had like the little jam band. We would hang out in the garage or in the attic or in the basement, wherever was open, whoever's parents were cool with us making noise that weekend. Parents
are always really nice about it until it hits a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Like I'd have drummers over and we'd be in the basement playing, and I know my dad, and I'm sure everybody else's dad was the same way, or mom was the same way, was like, all right, I've hit my limit of about 2 hours. You guys are done. Go outside.
Sadly, I was never, my parents split whenever I was like the summer after 8th grade. So whenever I was really getting into playing with other people, I didn't have really a place for us to play.
Yeah.
So I was always the nomadic one that was just bouncing to everybody else's house. But also they wouldn't have I went to school at South Iredell High, did the IB program. So I was coming from North Iredell, like 30 minutes to school, like 35 minutes to get to South.
Okay.
And everybody that I was like really close friends with was 15, 20 minutes the other way in Mooresville. So we were meeting in the middle for school, and then I would come down to them to hang out, and then I'd have to drive back. One of my buddies lived off exit 31 on Langtree. Right. That was always a mess to drive like all the way down there and back.
77 is horrible.
Awful. But, yeah, seeing Thomas and seeing Vice Versa, seeing Steelfish and Incense. You can find Steelfish and Incense on Spotify. They're still up there. You should go check out the boys. Those are my buddies that got me into music. And then so I didn't really start gigging. I'd done like, playing guitar and singing at church,
right.
Or playing guitar and singing. My mom had a daycare, so I would do like the graduation ceremonies, and just do stuff for like family at family parties and like stuff like that. But it wasn't. I got my first like paid gig whenever I was like a freshman in college playing with Thomas, and I was just like, oh, this is what I've been missing. This is what I've been wanting to do for years, and I haven't known how to like put it into words, or haven't really been able to find a group of people that are like united on that front. But this is it. Like this is the point. This is what I'm trying to do with music, is just get out there and connect with people.
So I'm curious, you were singing, you said you had done choir in school and you started getting the guitar a little bit later. Did you instantaneously, when you started playing guitar, did you start connecting the singing with the playing, or did you have a disconnect? Like I didn't start singing until I was like in my 30s, and I was always just a guitar player.
Wild.
Yeah. I was becoming a music educator. Actually, I came into singing when I would teach guitar lessons. And I would work out of this book called Easy Pop Rhythms. And I would teach my kids to strum guitar along with a backing track. And so they're following a chord chart with the song.
Right.
So they're playing along, and I started to know the songs intimately at that time. So they'd be getting in my brain. So I'd just be like, okay. And they're like, how do you know where I am? I'm like, all right, I'll just sing it. I was like, don't mind my voice. I'll just sing it. And I'd be singing along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'd be like, okay. And then I became a music educator and I needed to be able to sing for that. And then more and more just was singing.
That's
so
awesome.
when did you start to connect the two?
For me, I mean, I've always sang. So, and I'm not the best singer. Like I'm not a vocalist. I don't consider myself like I'm no Nina Simone. I'm no Aretha Franklin.
Sure.
I'm not those cats. My melisma's not that great. My tone's not that great. But I put everything I got into it whenever I do it.
Yeah.
It's pure feeling and emotion, and it feels good. And I'm telling stories that are authentic. They're from my life. They're things that I've experienced and things that I've felt, and that hopefully other people feel as well. So that was really like writing songs is where I started putting it together.
Okay.
And that happened very shortly after like getting really whenever I got my cousin's electric guitar and I learned to play a couple of riffs, and then I learned the minor pentatonic scale. The one lesson I had like on guitar was I had my friend Brian Smallwood, who played in he played in a couple bands. He's like a Milestone legend, dude. He was around the Milestone for years and years. The Flat Tires, that's what they're called. And then also War Boys. He showed me the minor pentatonic scale, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is how Jimmy does what he does. This is how Tony Iommi does what he does. And then so I started writing riffs. Whenever I started writing riffs, I started like, okay, well, I need something else to go with this riff. I can't just have a riff for no reason.
Yeah.
So I'll put some chords with it. Well, then all of a sudden now I've got chords. Well, I might as well like use these words that I wrote down, like, and might as well call it a song. And it was just putting the pieces together like one by one. Really, I had to get to the point where the guitar was almost easy to play, if that makes sense. Not easy to play. I had to get to the point where I could like play it without really thinking about it as much, so that I could focus on the singing.
I'm really curious because as a singer player, are there certain things that you can't sing and play? Because I know like I'm doing cover tunes or something like that, and if I'm playing like in a duo with my buddy John, I'm like, all right, you sing that part because I can't sing it and play it at the same time. So,
dude, you think okay, absolutely, yes. But the person who has the hardest job of that in the entire band, the drummer's rare. You rarely ever see drummer singers. Anytime I see a drummer that's a singer, I am so, I'm mad respect. Like, Wyatt Frigerio from Once Below Joy, a local band. He sings like Geddy Lee, but he plays like Neil Peart, and it's just like, you're crazy. You're on another level. But bass players have it so tough. Like Jack Bruce, Phil Leno, like those guys are crazy to be able to do it, because what we're feeling is the fact that we have to keep, it's almost polyrhythms. So what it is like you're switching the way that the reason it's hard to do is because the two things aren't in sync at the same time.
Sure.
You can't just play the strumming pattern and then while each time your pick is hitting the strings, your voice is making a sound. It's not that simple. There's a lot of like back and forth, and there's a lot of bounce that happens, and all of a sudden it's really easy to get those two unlocked. So one of them has to be like completely locked. If I can get the guitar part to where I can play it, like Who Did You Think I Was by John Mayer, that one's kind of like a tough one, or was like a tough one, because the riff just keeps going the whole time, like while he's singing over top of it and adding like little vocal inflections. I do a sort of similar thing. It's a completely different style of song, but in my song Ollie's Got a Rifle, there's this one riff that just keeps going the whole time, and it's like the driving thematic concept of the tune, and I'm singing over top of it. There's certain verses that I can get the guitar riff like I want it to, and then there's certain verses where sometimes live I have to hold a whole note and just kind of like sing over top of it and then come back in. Like doing stuff in the studio, you have the benefit of being able to split it apart, but live it's always a completely different animal, especially when you're feeling it, because then you're trying to do something, you're trying to do it in a way that you maybe haven't done before, or in a way that you don't do as often, a way that's not going to be as muscle memory. You're trying to add this little flavor in there, and then all of a sudden it's not like clockwork anymore. Now all of a sudden the train is teetering and it could go off the rails, because just the way that you're trying to add these little things into two separate things that you're doing at the same time. It's almost like polyrhythmic.
Yes.
But
it's difficult. I actually just saw, we're just talking about it and it just reminded me, I'd never heard it before, never saw the clip. It's an old video clip. Must have been from the 80s. And somebody was interviewing Eric Clapton. It popped up on my feed and the question came up and it said, the reporter asked him, is it true that you can't play Layla at the same time, play that part in Layla and sing at the same time? He goes, it's absolutely true. I can't do it. He goes, I might if I really practiced hard.
Right.
He goes, but it's just easier to have somebody else in the band play that part and I'll just do this, you know?
Well, and when you're getting started out, like I only have 4 songs on my record.
Yeah.
Like on my EP. So I have no reason to not be able to do it because I don't have a wealth of material like Clapton does. Clapton has a lot of stuff that he may pull that song out tonight and then tomorrow night he's just not going to do it. He's going to do Bell Bottom Blues instead because it fits the vibe a little bit better for the show, you know? Like he's with a wealth of music like that. It's really hard to, I don't know. It's like Lindsey Buckingham. Like I feel like I don't know how Lindsey Buckingham does what he does sometimes because he has so many songs and then he'll just like pull Big Love out of nowhere and just like be able to play and sing it like he did 20, 30 years ago. I'm like,
he's
what?
Insane. Have you seen, I've mentioned this to a few players. So, you tell me, I mean, being a player, of course, you're always watching other people play, right?
Always, yeah.
Watching their hands. And I am constantly amazed, having gone to school, studied classical guitar and being worried about technique and my hands, you know, how I approach everything. And by no means am I a shredder or anything like that. But when I see somebody like Lindsey Buckingham play, he's an incredible guitar player. I'm not going to take him away. I watch his right hand when he finger picks and it just makes every part of my body tighten up. I don't know how he plays so well. And I look at
so much unnecessary movement.
Yeah. And his hand looks like a claw.
Yeah.
I'm like, how does he play?
Almost.
Yeah. It's good. You notice it too, you know? Another thing I notice is, you may be that type of player. You may not. There's 2 schools of thought. Are you a player who wraps their thumb around the neck when you play? Because I know players who do that, and I can't do it. It's not my thing.
I do it a lot, but I don't. I try. It's kind of a crutch. I feel bad because like I feel like I used to write songs. Like I have a lot of stuff. I've only recently started recording my music. I've been mostly working for other people for like hired gun stuff.
Yeah.
I did like 5 years with the first band that I was in, and then
I definitely want to dig into this more too.
Yeah, well, I mean, how much time we got?
Oh,
dude?
we
I'll
got
keep
plenty of time,
talking.
dude. Trust me, it's a long form.
Right on.
We're going a couple hours, so.
But yeah, I completely. I'm sorry. I got.
Yeah, no. We were talking about wrapping our thumb around the neck.
Oh yeah, wrapping the thumb around the neck. I definitely do that, but I kind of use it as a crutch. Ever since I learned to do it, I've almost not used my open chords. Like I've been recently, like the past couple of years, I've been trying to get into a little bit of bluegrass stuff. Like,
sure.
I mean, I love Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I love that movie. And
classic, man.
I mean, I went and saw Billy Strings a couple times, and I mean, it just reawakened my love for it. And so I need to play less with the thumb because when you play with the thumb, you're stuck in that Jimmy Claw. Like, I call it the Jimmy Claw, like Jimi Hendrix. It's also the Jimmy Claw, like Jimmy Page, because Jimmy Page did it from years and years of like hours of studio stuff that he couldn't play bar chords that long. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
And there for a while, it definitely helped me play guitar more. But then it almost got to the point where I didn't have as much versatility. It's almost like when you do that, it's really hard to not sound like Jimi Hendrix, John Mayer, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Sure.
Like, it's really hard to not be in that vein of guitar world when you do the thumb wrap. So there's a lot of stuff, like with jazz stuff that I've been learning recently. I try to not do the thumb. I try to stay away from it as much as possible because it's actually limiting a little bit for when you're playing all the strings, when you're playing in a 3-piece rock outfit and you need your guitar to be a wall of sound by itself.
Yes.
You want to hit all the notes and you want to be able to add all the embellishments and you want to have that pinky free so you can do whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
When you're playing jazz and you are locking in as a gear within a larger machine, Like when you have 3 horn players and you have drums and you have piano and you also have bass, all of a sudden it's not a 3-piece rock outfit anymore. You don't need to be hitting 6 notes across 3 octaves.
Yeah.
That's not necessary. So a lot of times what's cooler is the inner movement within that stuff. And whenever you're doing the thumb wrap, you're choking out a lot of that movement that you have with the rest of your hand. The rest of it has to almost remain stagnant, and you only get to move the high end with the pinky. And depending on what kind of stuff you're playing, you don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So it's harder to switch between like octaves, like doing like the Wes Montgomery kind of thing,
right,
the Kenny Burrell kind of thing, and then switching to like more single note runs. If you're always used to keeping the thumb wrapped, because then you also lose that strength in your thumb, that like muscle right there.
Sure.
It gets kind of flabby, and then you can't play for as long without getting sore or without like missing notes, losing articulation, and losing the tightness technically.
So I'm curious, just talking about guitar and getting in depth with talking technique and that kind of stuff. Did you take lessons? We didn't talk about that. You're all totally self-taught?
Yeah. I mean, I just put together this stuff. Well, okay. I take lessons from every single person that I talk to about music or about the instrument or about life. Like everybody has something that you can learn from them. And it's really important to know when those moments are that you should be listening and when those moments are that you should be, like teaching, be talking versus listening. And I never really, I've taken 2, like official guitar lessons in my entire career. And one of them was with Andre Ferrari, and I know
Andre, yeah.
Andre is the man. That was actually only a couple of months ago. Over the past couple of years, I've been trying to get into jazz and trying to get into more complex harmonies, and more involved music, stuff that's not so pop music is very, it's really bad about getting boring to me if I've played too much of the same genre for too long of a period of time. If I'm playing country music, if I'm like doing a gig, it's one thing. I can cram and I can learn the chicken picking licks, and I can keep everything in a basically like a Mixolydian, like dominant major kind of format, and I can exist within that world for the gig and do the job that the person needs me to do. But if I'm just doing that for an extended period of time, I'm going to get really bored with it. Jazz, even though jazz is technically just one genre, it's not really just one genre. No. So you can just go through you can just go up and down the tree of the lineage of like all the cats, and it's crazy because then you start realizing the people in today's, like Mono Neon, an insane bass player who like I found from Instagram, was Prince's last bass player, and his dad played with like Ron Carter. And then like Flying Lotus, an insane producer who works with like Kendrick Lamar and like Thundercat. That's John Coltrane's nephew. Like there's all these and I mean obviously you have like
there.
Yeah, obviously you have like the jam band lineage, which I'm very familiar with, being like a Deadhead and like an Allman Brothers guy. I mean, and I love Widespread Panic. I'm only recently gotten into them, but that lineage is a little bit more, like, you can tell because people are going by their last names, like Derek Trucks and Dwayne Trucks. That's Butch Trucks' nephews. Like Dwayne Betts and
Dickie Betts.
Well, Dickie Betts is his dad. Dickie Betts is the original.
Yeah.
Dwayne Betts is his son. He named him after Dwayne.
Yes.
And then there's like I can't remember what Devin Allman.
Yes.
Obviously, we know who he's related to.
Yeah.
So it's the more you learn about the continuum of American music, the more you'll realize that all of it stems from like the same places. And really those places are really that place is like the intersection of like African rhythms and African harmonies with like Western music theory, which Western music theory was just like a conglomeration of 1,000 years of music into 12 notes and a couple of symbols so that we could write these hieroglyphics down. So
just out of curiosity, since you didn't take formal lessons and you were teaching yourself, just hearing you talk about, modes and things like that, you've actually studied stuff.
Yeah.
You're not that guy who, and I've bumped into him.
I've got
several people who's like, I've played in bands with people and I'm like, hey man, can you play that D chord? And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, man. You put the one you're making that looks like a triangle upside down.
The play button?
Like, yeah. And they're like, oh, that's a D? And I'm like, yeah, well, I never really learned that stuff. I just play by ear, which is fine, but
it's fun to jam with people like that, honestly, because I love jamming with people that are from that mindset, because they will do some stuff you would not ever think of. And you're like, what the crap? Like, that was, like, technically speaking, that was very complicated what you just did.
Yeah.
And you did it by accident, which is cool. So, like, I love that. I love that people can create without learning the rules, because for me, I needed to really get a hang of the rules. I got my music education basically secondhand from all of my friends who went to music school.
Okay.
They turned me on, like Max Gill, his dad Kevin Gill played for Greenlight, crazy Charlotte band. Max plays with me sometimes. He has his own band, Pocket Scotch. Really great dude. He's turned me on to a lot of stuff that has deepened my wealth of music knowledge. But like, really what it is chorus and band, you play monophonically. Like, I played saxophone and we were singing. So like, I'm only looking at one part at a time. Right. But that means that I learned, Every Good Boy Does Fine, Face, Great Big Dogs Fight Animals, All Cows Eat Grass. I learned, half note or whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16ths.
Right.
I learned these things in the school setting, but never took didn't take a lesson with the guitar, because I didn't really need to. All this stuff it makes sense. It's the same as like that thing that I did on the piano. If you play this and then you play this, it's the same as doing this and this on a guitar.
Right.
Like, if you play the two white keys next to each other, it's 2 frets on a guitar. If you play the white and the black key on the piano, it's only 1.
Yeah.
It's a length of string that then repeats itself, and so that part just sort of made sense. But learning the more in-depth stuff, learning about like different scales, learning about your modes, learning about, learning the Nashville number system. They call it Nashville, even though it's not at all. Like,
yeah, I know.
But learning the number system, all that stuff just came from really playing with people and trying to go out to every jam that I could. And anytime somebody wanted to play, it doesn't matter if this drummer plays hip hop music and if this bass player plays classical music, like, we can, and I play rock, we can get together and have a good time. We can get together and make some cool noise. And in that process, when I do this thing and they're like, oh, I love the way that you went into the diminished scale. And I'm like, what's the diminished scale? And they're like, oh, it's just, stacking minor thirds. It's, one of those symmetrical scales, like Slonimsky and Stravinsky talk about it. And there's all this stuff, and this guy has
what?
Yeah, you should totally check it out and get into this guy's like C Lydian middle chromatic theory concept and all that stuff. And then when it gets too
heady,
dense, heady, when it gets a little bit it's hard for me to remember everything. I can't remember, what everything I've ate today. Like, I can't, much less remember every single mode of the melodic minor versus the harmonic minor versus what I understand is I get the gist enough to make it work for me. And if there's something that I can't figure out how to make it work, I just know that I can go on Google and I can find it. I can just go and find a good YouTube video from a source that like has a bunch of other stuff that maybe they've had featured musicians on their site that that I'm familiar with, or different things like that. We live in the age of the internet, which is also why, going back to that Van Halen thing, that's why I don't know how to gauge who will be remembered, in the sense that like there's going to be so many people that are technically proficient like that. Like, technical proficiency is almost becoming like a bare minimum, and it's also becoming something that turns not the consumer, I hate to say it that way, but the consumer off from the art.
Well, just for anybody listening, when Nathan said the Van Halen thing, you're like, what is he talking about? We actually had a whole long conversation before we started recording. So if you're listening now, you're like, what is he even going on about? It's going back to a conversation prior to what we started. So
my fault. I completely,
That's okay. That's all right. I mean, there's just so much, you use what you're going to use, but there are different people in the world. And when it comes to musicians, I think there are musicians who, like me, I easily say I took lessons for a long time because I'm just that kind of person. Like, show me how to do it and I can kind of run with it and do it myself. But then there's people who like intuitively, like yourself, just start picking stuff up and do it. I tried doing lessons. I tried learning by myself because all my idols when I was younger, I taught myself. I tried doing that. And I was like, how the heck did anybody do this by themselves? That's insane. And found some good teachers to show me what to do, which opened the complete world to me.
And I am not at all. I would very much recommend taking lessons. At least when you're getting started, it'll curb a lot of bad habits. Like as a teacher, there's a lot of things that most of my job is basically monitoring to make sure that you're not developing bad habits. You have to put the time in, and you have to make use of the information that's being passed along to you. But I had to go and unwork those bad habits. I had to go and unlearn and relearn to work around them, as opposed to somebody who just took lessons from the get-go is going to have a lot more streamlined of a process with it.
And that's a pain in the butt undoing bad habits.
I still got bad habits. I've still got bad habits. There's times where I hate to be this guy, but there's times where I have to tell my student, be like, hey, don't do that. And they're like, well, I just watched you do it. I'm like,
don't do what I do.
Don't do what I do.
I'm trying to save you years of work.
Right. And I mean, but at the same time, the whole point is the mentality of always being a student and always trying to learn more and always trying to find out more and always trying to reach this this enlightened experience through sound.
Sure.
And in the pursuit of that, there's a lot of people who are going to work every single day, all day, and try to figure out the answer to the code. And then there's other people that are going to ignore the code because they say it's a never-ending journey of figuring stuff out anyways, right?
Right.
Well, then I'll figure it out when I figure it out. I'm not going to stress about it. And I think that both mentalities are perfectly valid. And most people aren't really one or the other. It's really like, it depends on how you're feeling that day.
Yeah.
Depends on how you're feeling in that moment. I can wake up in the morning and play my guitar for a few hours, or I can wake up in the morning and be like, I'll play my guitar for a few hours later.
Yeah.
And I'm going to watch a podcast right now, or I'm going to, watch a comedy special or something. So it doesn't, the idea that it has to all happen at a certain point, that like that looming feeling of like, you've got to figure it out now or you're not going to figure it out. That's not helpful. And I know a lot of people that get into the student mindset that are always stuck in that running towards this thing. Like, and to me, that's just a carrot on a stick. Like, you're never going to get to the point where you know so much that you don't feel the way you feel about it. And if you feel confused, you're going to feel confused at times.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much you know.
That's the one thing about music is it's so vast. And people don't realize how vast they are, because it can be as simple as you want it to be or as difficult as you want it to be. So for perfect example, if all you want to do is play 3-chord songs on a guitar, that's easy. If you want to learn how to sing and play 3-chord songs, that now you've expanded your focus. But now you want to get better at guitar. Now you got to start learning this and you got to start learning that. Take it out of just a playing thing. What if you want to learn a different style? Yeah. So you go out of this. Now I want to get into jazz, or I want to get into this. That gets massive. Now you go down another rabbit hole.
And now all of a sudden there's not enough time in the day to do all of the things that you know that you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be able to play Classical Gas by Tommy Emmanuel, but you worked on it for like an hour a day for a month straight. and you're almost done, and then all of a sudden something happens, you got called for a gig, and now this next week you're cramming for this gig, and then you come back after a week and it's just gone.
Yep.
And because you're not a flamenco player, you're not a classical player, you're a rock guitarist, or on the opposite side, you learn how to play these songs for this gig, for this cover gig, for this rock band. Let's say you're a horn player, and you learn all these songs, but then you go back to learning jazz, and all of a sudden you come back the next week and you're like, oh yeah, I remember those songs. They're only like 3 or 4 chords, right?
Yeah.
And then you play them and you don't remember the stops.
Yeah.
And you don't remember the hits, and you don't remember the dynamics, like where the builds are supposed to be, because there's something deceivingly simple about saying like, oh, it's a 3-chord song. But it's way harder to put everything you've got into 3 chords than it is to hang on to a form of like multiple chords that you're basically just like along for the ride. Like, it's not about the feeling that you're putting into it. It's about like look, I can do this. Look at this thing that is this super complicated and it's cool. And that's great, but it's, you end up, I don't know. It's that student versus creator mindset. Like, it's such a paradox, because you don't want to create under the it gives off the assumption that you think you know something better than someone else, or like if you there's this inner conflict of, am I being arrogant in the assumption that somebody would want to listen to this, or in the assumption that somebody would want to perceive this creation? But then on the flip side, if you're always worried about trying to learn something that you can learn about it enough to where you can create something for the people that they are going to want to hear, in that process, you're never really figuring out what it is you want to make.
Yep.
So
there's that thing you have to, if you are interested in creating your own stuff, your own music, you have to create it for you and then put it out. And the audience will find it if they like it.
Absolutely.
Because you can't, I think fake quote unquote music would be somebody just creating something because somebody wants to hear it. And then you wind up repeating yourself over and over. I think the mark of a artist, I'm going to say true artist, just an artist, somebody, they're kind of always chasing their muse. Hey, I'm interested in this. This is what I want to kind of do. This is what I'm going to do. And if you find those artists, let's just take some different bands. You could take the Beatles, the first Beatles recording compared to the White Album, completely different band.
Yep.
Completely different sound. You take Rush from the first album to their last album, completely different band. So if you track these artists, Bob Dylan, everybody going through changes, if that artist has the time to follow their muse, they're gonna change, because not everybody's gonna be, and it's a cliche at this point, AC/DC, where we put out the same thing every album, and they do, but they don't, but that's what they do, and they do it well.
Absolutely. Well, and they're inspiring with it, because it goes back to that thing of like, even if it's not for me, even if something isn't for me, I still love seeing somebody be able to do what they want to do. Yeah. So even if I'm over here trying to figure out how to use this scale or how to use this new time signature, I'm nerding out about music and they're not. Yeah. It doesn't mean that makes the music bad. Yeah. It's still art, and it's still a form of self-expression. And I don't know, I just get caught up on that whole, that running around. It's like a dog chasing its tail with the student versus like teacher thing. Like, we all want to always be a student to be learning, but we also need to know when to turn that mindset off. I totally agree. To be able to really create or teach. Like, sorry, that was just a tough one. No, you've got to find yourself when you're playing. Yeah. Just out of curiosity, so let's just jump down this rabbit hole anyway about teaching. So you teach guitar. What's your approach with your students? Do you have an age range? I'm guessing, because when I taught guitar, I had kids to adults. Yeah, it's any age group, and really it's gonna be tailored to whoever the person is. Right. For the most part, I teach out of the music and arts book, just to get them started, just to get a little bit of something where when I'm not there, they can read and it'll tell them exactly what to do. So if they forgot how to do it whenever I told them in class, if they go home, it has the little blurb to remind them, like, oh, let the strings ring whenever you're picking these. Like little things like that. And then I have a folder that I'll do like exercises that are basically just supplemental resources or like other songs. If they're like, hey, I want to learn this song, it's not in the book. Like, let's try it.
Right.
A lot of times, as bad as this is, with the lessons through the music store, I'm basically a glorified babysitter. Like, I rarely ever get students that are like very interested.
Yeah.
So more often than not, what I'm trying to do is just make the guitar fun for them.
Sure.
So rather than, I mean, if a kid's 8 years old and just got done with school and then soccer practice and then their mom comes and drops them off at guitar lessons,
right,
it's a coin flip as to whether or not they're really going to have any energy left to engage with you.
Sure.
They need to eat dinner and they need to play some video games and be a kid for a minute and then worry about like being creative.
That's an interesting thing. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. But it's an interesting thing to me. It's having taught guitar for so many years is you as a player and now teaching, we all want that child or adult to come in who just wants to, I'm really into this and I'm dying again.
Yeah.
And we vibe on that. We're like, yes, absolutely, we've got one, and then unfortunately, the reality is the vast majority of people who come in who start playing, they're not as into it as you would hope. And you have to kind of get them excited about it.
But that's also our job, is to really gauge that and to tell what this person needs.
Yeah.
I've had adult students that really like, honestly, just wanted a friend. As bad as that sounds,
sure,
like they just didn't have any friends that played music that they could talk about guitar with.
Yeah. So
they would come into lessons, and even though I have like a game plan for, okay, so last week we worked on this, so we're going to move forward, we're going to last week we worked on our minor pentatonic scale, we learned it. So this week we're going to work on doing it, in like a series of 3 or in a series of 4, like up 2, back 1, up 2, back 1, up 3, back 2, that type deal. And they'll come in and they'll just really want to talk about like this new video they saw, like where Warren Haynes was ripping, and like I have to walk this fine line of like, I don't want to make them feel like I don't value their musical opinion by telling them that we can talk about that later, because I don't know if I will have a later, because I've got a lesson right after this.
Sure.
And like, I could tell them to text it to me, but like, if it's a private student, I can do that. But if also private lessons generally are just way better anyways, just because I only do an hour at the store. We do 30-minute lessons.
Yeah. Oh, 30 minutes goes by. It's insanely fast.
Sucks, dude. They get 5 minutes to get their guitar out and get tuned up.
And 5 minutes to pack up.
And 5 minutes.
And you got a 20-minute lesson.
Yep. And it's hard to really, if the student is making an impact at home, then those lessons can actually be really, really worth it. Because if you just come in and you just want the bullet points of an hour and you just want it like bang, 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 and you just want to go through and knock all this stuff out, we can do an hour's worth of work in 20 minutes.
Right.
But you're going to have to be locked in. For an hour private lesson, that gives, I forgot, I got to respond to this for work real quick. Like, okay, you better be glad we're not on a 30-minute timer.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a private lesson. If we need to go 5 minutes over, I can go 5 minutes over on a private lesson. But I'm in the process of trying to get my studio, get a studio set up. But
do you have a whole, a lot of people, we customize it.
Like,
No. I mean, just like with lessons, because I found over the years that I taught, so let's just say I taught guitar 25 years. I found myself, didn't matter who I taught, kids or adults starting in, because everybody's got holes, whether they're just starting or I always had, I don't want to say cookie cutter, that's a bad way to say it, but I had a certain way that I taught. Like, everybody was going to do this, and everybody was going to do this, and everybody's going to do this, so that I know, to me, all these gaps are filled in, because as a player and a former student, I did not want somebody coming to me leaving with all my deficiencies.
100%.
I wanted to fill them in on the things that I felt like when I was younger, I didn't get.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah. So like alternate picking is one thing. That I get that, and I get that in their brain. A lot of it's actually music theory stuff. Some of it's not even like, I mean, yes, the technical aspect of like building the bridge, like nothing touches the guitar but the pad of your thumb and the tips of your finger. I don't let them do the thumb wrap. I don't, which sucks because they'll come in and they'll see me playing before the lesson and I'm doing the thumb wrap and then they'll, but I don't know. It's mainly like theory stuff, like the idea that like one note is a sound, two notes is an interval, three notes or more is a chord.
Right.
Knowing these ideas, like knowing your major scale, but not just knowing your major scale, knowing that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
That means if something is a fourth apart, it's the same distance as the first note of the major scale and the fourth note of the major scale.
Right.
So that you have an idea of what these concepts in music are. The issue is I still have to walk that line with, like, if I have a kid that really does not even want to be there, but they like playing the guitar, like they're having a, like, and they don't want to memorize stuff about music. They just want to come in and they want to figure out how to play whatever it is they want to play that day.
Right.
Really, my goal is to just keep them interested. If they're interested, there's the possibility they will learn.
Right.
If they're not interested, they won't stick around long enough to learn. Even if I'm doing the best I can to feed them the right information and to make that information interesting, if they just, like I said, if they just don't have the energy, if they're not in the mindset and they're just blocked off, I'm just going to teach them how to put their fingers in the right place to play a G chord and then the right place to play a C chord. And I'm going to let them go nuts, you know, like I'm going to let them have fun, because if that's what keeps them coming back each time they come back, there's a chance that they may be open that day.
Right.
And there's some students, I mean, I've got a student that I've had for about a year. That kid is some days he is killing me. Some days he comes in and I'm just like, and if you ever had the ones where it's like they're asking you questions to waste time.
Oh yeah.
They're not actually really trying to like get to the bottom of anything. Yes. They're just like bugging you, and it's just like, what is, like, I don't want to tell you to stop asking questions, because then later there's going to be a time where you want to ask a question and you don't because I told you to stop. Yeah. But it becomes this like mental game of like, kid, you're messing with me and I don't like it.
I got kind of really into understanding a lot of music theory because when I was younger and I started playing guitar, when I didn't practice, I actually just went into my teacher and I was like, okay, can we just do a theory lesson today? I didn't get much practice in. And he'd be like, okay.
If you were interested in the theory and
I was just like,
let's
just show me this stuff. And so when I got into college, and I actually went to night school to start and taking theory courses, and I'd be in class, and the people in class, like, they were like, they didn't understand anything. I was like, yeah, that's this. They'd look at me, my friends, and would be like, how do you know all this? And I'm like, I took guitar lessons, and when I didn't practice, I just asked my teacher to teach me theory stuff so I understood what was going on. He was like, and they were like, man, that's freaking genius. Yeah, you know, I mean, it just fills in gaps.
100%. And I try to fill in those gaps. It is just, it's just hard. There's each student is different. And like, I feel like the adults are way more, teenagers to adults are way more apt to remember the theory.
Yeah.
The kids, the youngins really like are not, the theory doesn't ever stick with them. There's some of them that will remember it, but when they remember it, they're regurgitating information back at you.
Sure.
It's not something that they're truly processing. So really, as long as they're playing the guitar every day, that's the main thing. If you're not getting the most out of that practicing, if you're like that, we can work on making it more efficient.
Right.
But like, I just need you to have fun and be playing the thing every day. Otherwise, sure. I don't have clay to mold with at that point.
Right. Out of curiosity, just because I have to ask, just being a guitar teacher, you, I'm sure, have gotten students from other teachers have come to you, in the past. And I could see the smile on your face a little bit. Maybe you might know where I'm leading the question. Do you ever get students from other teachers? Because I've had this happen, and I'm just like, what have you been working on? And they'll pull out like scraps of paper.
Yep.
And you're like, what? Like, and there's the thought process you can see behind somebody else's teaching is like you, I don't mean you per se, but me being so methodical. Like I had the kids have a notebook and you could see where they progressed. Like if one of my students went to somebody else, they'd be like, what were you working on with your other teacher? Well, here's my notebook. And they could go, oh, you've worked on this. You've worked on these scales. You've done this. You've done this. Wow. But I've seen other teachers, students come to me, and not anybody's names particular, but it's just like, what were you thinking?
There's definitely stuff like that. There's also instances where it's like, I can see where a teacher was going with something, but I can also tell that like the student does not, based on having the conversation with them. Like if in their book they have Proud Mary is like the first page that they have scribbled up, and then the next one after that is I'm trying to think. Basically, the Proud Mary has G, E minor, and D.
Yeah.
And then if the next song has G, C, D, and E minor, it's like Take Me Home Country Roads.
Right.
And then the next one after that has all of those, but it adds in a part where the C goes to like a C sharp diminished. All of a sudden, I can tell what their process of thought is. They're like what they're trying to keep everything in G and keep everything related.
Yeah.
But there's times where it feels like they just didn't get to the point where it was all clicking. It feels like they had an idea of where they were going, and it just didn't ever get there.
Or they're learning bar chords in like their first song, and you're like, just started playing a song, and like you haven't even started like doing anything.
A lot of times that'll be the student. That won't be the teacher. Yeah. A lot of times the teacher will ask the student like, what do you want to do? And then the kid will like suggest this, and they're like, okay, we can do that. It's going to take you a while, like, but we can do it because
that's the hook.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted you to learn. You want to learn? Okay, I wanted you to be interested and still take lessons. I'll do what you want to do.
Yeah. And I mean,
which I think is not good.
It's not, but it's at the same time, it really depends because there's some people that don't want to know how to play music. They just want to know how to play guitar.
Right.
And that's the bummer of it, is that because of the way that people look at it, people don't see music because the way music education is in the school systems. I feel like people don't understand that music is like a math of itself. Mm-hmm. And the best musicians are like scientists, and they're doing experiments all the time with sound and what we can do with sound.
Yeah.
And most people just see it as background noise.
Sure.
Like as bad as this is, if you talk to my brother and you ask my brother like what his favorite bands are, I don't know if he could name you 5 bands. Right. I don't like he can name you 5 songs. If you ask his favorite 5 songs, he can tell you 5 songs that he knows, but he's not going to be able to tell you who they're by.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of people out here. We also spend most of I've spent most of my adult life around musically inclined individuals.
Sure.
So I haven't really had a good taste of like what's out there in the populace that's not meant for musicians. Like what's the music that people like? Why do people listen to? I'm trying to think of like a pop star that I like don't get. Like Sabrina Carpenter. Why do people listen to Sabrina Carpenter? Well, she was like a TV actress and stuff before that. She's like been around. She's been in the So there's a lot of this. People aren't listening to music for just music anymore. It's not about music, and I don't think they have been since like really TV came around, because all of a sudden it's
visual.
The visual aspect takes over, and it becomes more about somebody's celebrity, which isn't the same as their quality of musicianship.
Right. Well, it'd be interesting to see over the next couple of decades what if music starts to circle back, because I think
it's always
people
been
might
there.
be getting kind of bored with what's going on in music, because it's the same. One, you have the same songwriters writing all these song hits, and there's the same like 25 people who write the same songs around the same 3 or 4 chords. Like there's almost only so much 1, 4, 5, and 6 that you can throw into a song.
With a different bridge.
Yeah. And then it's gotten shorter, because like when I grew up, sound like an old man, but the intros to songs would be 30 seconds to almost sometimes a minute long before the song even started.
Oriented.
Yeah.
Because everything used to be about like creating a a world with sound. And now it's about creating content with sound. It's creating product with sound. It's become this thing where it's no longer art, it's the music business. Which is why, for the most part, like, I don't think that's the goal of what I want to do with my, like, I know that everybody defines success differently, but, like, I would much rather create an organic following of, you know, there's 7 billion people in the world. Mm-hmm. If you have 10,000 of them that like everything that you do and are willing to spend, you know, $100 a year on, like, going to shows, buying albums, buying merch.
You just have to find those people.
You just have to find those people.
But you also have to, I think, for me, you have to start, and I don't think it only happens as you get older, not being older per se, but as you age as a musician, you have to figure out what success means. So, like, when I started as a kid, what was the ultimate goal? Oh, I was going to play guitar because I wanted to meet girls. And then it became, I want to play in a rock band. Oh, and I want to be famous. And of course I want to be famous and I want to tour the world and make millions of dollars. And as I got older, it started to be like, I just want to play music and I want to be a musician. Absolutely. And I'm really kind of into this. And then as I got older and I wanted to become a musician and this is what I want to do, how am I going to make a living doing this? And it does not necessarily mean playing around the world as a world famous musician making millions of dollars. It could mean doing other things. It could mean, you know, I became a music educator. I'm still involved in music. Somebody might be like, oh, you're not really a musician. No, I'm a musician, man. Right, I'm because you don't know too many musicians. You'd be hard pressed to name 3 musicians who only tour and make their own music and sell their own music for a living.
Well, but that's
who are not world famous.
Well, now we have to make the distinguish between artist, musician, celebrity, because everything starts to blend together. And basically, like, I don't remember whether we were talking about this before or the podcast started, or whether we've talked about this on the air. But when we were talking about you said that it was a little bit easier in the business back in the day because you could get a record deal and you could get people that would, like, build you up.
There was hope. There was more hope, yeah.
And in a certain sense, that the hope nowadays is that by having access to so much information and so many tools that were previously would have been unheard of, we can wear a lot of hats nowadays.
Yeah.
You can get somebody who is a band leader, who is also the band booker, who is also doing all the visuals and all the posters and all the album covers and and then they're also doing this, that, and the other. So they're using all of these skills to basically save money and save, like, time in the process. So you can then, if you start making money, you don't have as much overhead. You don't have to pay for 20 people to get a band together. You just have to pay for the 4 people in the band.
But it's a double-edged sword because and again, this is just the top echelon. Back in the day, if you were fortunate enough to get a recording contract, you got your advance and you could then live off. Let me get to where I'm getting. So you could live off that advance, and the musician, your job was to create music. That's your job. But today, you better be a good musician before you start, because if you're doing the design, the recording, the booking, I mean, everything's on you. So, you know, you have less time there to put into actually creating the music is what I'm saying.
Yeah. But I mean, there's, that's a tricky thing, because, like, I don't think you have to be like John Coltrane and practice 8 to 16 hours a day.
Depending on what you want.
It depends on what you want. Yeah. It depends. Like, I don't think you have to do that to be able to make the art you want to make. But if there is something where you have to do that, you've got to prioritize and you've got to do that.
Yeah.
At which point, then, yeah, you need to outsource some labor. But I'm just saying, getting started, like, you used to get record deals and you'd get screwed over in the process because you wouldn't make any money.
Sure.
They'd give you $100,000 for the record or whatever, but that split between 5 people in the band. Everybody gets $20,000. Well, now we're also gonna we're going to recoup it out of your sales, where we're taking a 70-30 split. So until you guys sell like until you sell this much number, it's just all business.
Yeah.
And the business aspect of things that's the part that sucks, because the whole reason that I really wanted to play like music as a career, where I decided that I wanted to play music as a career instead of just as something that I did for me personally, because it was cathartic to write songs and because it was soul healing to just meditate and play guitar. When I decided that I wanted to make it my profession, it was really because I just wanted to not have to deal with the rat race of any other business. Everything that I'd seen up until that point, there was people getting abused, getting stepped on every single rung of the ladder, except for the guy at the top sitting happy, and he's up there juggling $100 bills while everybody else fights over pennies. And I didn't want to do that. I just want to make music. Until I realized that
it's the same.
It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same, except that it isn't.
Yeah.
Because there is still the hope that, like we were talking about with the record deal. It used to be the record deal. If you get the record deal, you get that's your payday. Nowadays, the hope is in you're almost in.
It's all up to you.
Yeah.
It's democratized. This is the term I've come to start to adopt. Everybody's on an equal footing now because there's no gatekeepers, and the record companies will come to you because you've already established yourself. I mean, nobody's giving you a record contract today.
But what sucks is you don't even really need those record labels, because the only reason they're going to come to you is because you've already built something that they see as valuable as an investment. And if you're at the point where they see you as valuable enough to invest in, then you've got something there organically that you should just work to build yourself.
Yeah. And in the information age, the cat's out of the bag. Like, everybody knows what's going on. So, like, you could go watch let's just say off the top of my head, I love these girls, the TLC, and you could watch their documentary about how they got millions of dollars in debt, and they sold all these albums and went on tour and made all this money. And they were broke by the time they came back from a tour because they owed the record company like $2 million in advances. So that they were paying them back. And people start to know now, like, I need this in a contract, and I need this in a contract, and this has got to be out.
What's crazy is it almost took rappers to really make that, like, a huge thing where people knew about it. Because when people knew about it, sure, your band manager knew about it, but everybody used to have a band manager back in the day, and they didn't care about it because they were taking a cut.
Yeah.
Like, whenever it got to the point where rappers were like entrepreneurs and stepping into this and going like, wait a minute, I'm getting swindled. And then so they start telling all their friends, and I feel like that it also might have just been what music was popular at the time when it was sort of like popping, because like I remember Tom Petty used to fight back against that crap all the time, like in the 70s and 80s. Yep. So the part what I'm talking about where it was really popping, where videos became more prevalent of it, was like in the late 90s and early 2000s. There was a lot of people speak, like Prince and like
that guy. I was just going to say, I've watched video clips of him talking now, and you're talking 20 years later. That
Genius.
Guy was so ahead of his time talking about record labels and contracts. There was a thing, and I'm not going to be able to articulate it real well, but he was talking to somebody about why he changed his name to the symbol.
The artist formerly known as Prince, yeah.
But that wasn't even the name at first. That was, he went to the symbol first because it was something along the lines, he had a record contract and he could not release recordings that he wanted to release under the Prince name because he still owed them something or other. So I think, if I remember correctly the way he said it, he changed his name. He was no longer Prince, so he was selling them under this sign so that he didn't have to deal, as a way to bypass the record companies, so that he could keep all the money. For himself. He didn't need to deal with them. And then people grasped onto the sign, and they were like, well, we don't know what this is called. We're just going to call him the artist formerly known as Prince.
Yeah.
And it's like, you listen to this guy talk about the business, and it's like, everybody would think he's nuts, right? Everybody at that time were like, he's freaking crazy. And then now you're like, oh, that's not really why he did that.
Yeah, he was playing 4D chess with those guys. He was saying like, I'm gonna make my art, I'm gonna make it my way. But I mean, I don't know. You're talking about the advances, and you mentioned touring. And, I mean, like that.
I do want to get into that with you.
Yeah, that touring is fun, but touring is not lucrative.
So yeah, let's get into it. All right. So hold on. Before we get into that, how did you, because you have been touring and done session work, how did you get into the touring part of playing?
So, well, touring is something that is kind of subjective. Like, it depends on who you ask.
Right.
You'll have people that set up tours that's like one date a week for like 3 months. I don't really consider those tours. But because of the nomenclature of what's like accepted within the business, it's better. Even if I've only done, I've recorded sessions at Guthrie and Grindhouse and like a couple of different like studios, and I've done, home studios with professional producers that have like worked with like DaBaby and Jack Harlow, but also home studios with people that are running a like cracked version of Ableton they got for free. That's session guitarist just means that if you want to hire me as an instrument on your piece, I am hireable. I am moldable. I will play what you need and what the song needs.
Yeah.
I don't just have to come in and do the stuff that you see me do at my own shows.
Right.
I can do other stuff. And then the touring just means, if you've got out of town gigs and you need somebody who's willing to travel, that's what that means. In my mind, I've really only done like one real tour. And I worked with a country rock band out of Western NC where we went to for a month, went to the UK, to England and Scotland. Yeah, and it was 17 shows in 30 days, and it was a blast. I've done like other weekend dates and stuff where I've done, like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday run through a region, or where I've done like we'll go out to this side of the state on this weekend, and then next weekend we're going to go out to the other side of the state, and we'll call it like a state tour. But I don't really consider those are runs to me. Those are just like a run of
it's
shows.
Just a different thing. Yeah, because I know one of the local performers. They'll do a mini tour, and they'll do like this run of shows here and there. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's a mini tour,
If it's like a week, or if it's like 4 days, like saying a mini tour, or saying like, I just like calling them, I just like saying that it's a run, because to me, saying that it's a tour gives it a certain sense of grandeur.
Yeah.
Like, it makes it seem like it's going to be this big thing that you need to be a part of. And if I'm not doing something that I feel like is at that level, I'm not going to attempt to oversell myself by playing that game. That's not how I operate.
Does it sound as glamorous as people make it out to be when you let one out to the UK?
So going out of the UK was... It was the experience of a lifetime. I have to preface everything I'm going to say, because I might at some points seem a little bit negative Nelly, and I don't want to be a negative Nelly. I do want to preface this with it was the experience of a lifetime, and I'm super grateful that I ever got the chance to do that, because prior to going, I did not even want to go. Like, prior to going, I never thought that I would tour in another country.
Right.
I never thought that, like, that wasn't the level of music that I was trying to operate at.
Sure.
I was a little bit more, homegrown, grassroots, organic kind of deal. I just wanted to keep doing what I was doing, which was I had like 30, 35 students. And then I had consistent gigs. I had like 2 or 3 like monthly gigs that I was doing, and then building around that were like decent pay. And then out of nowhere, I go on that tour, and I'm told that everything's going to be covered. Like, flights are going to be covered, food's going to be covered, housing's going to be covered. We won't have to pay for anything over there. And if we do have to pay for anything, like if we get separated, then we will be reimbursed.
Okay.
That was not the case. From immediately from the time like we're renting the car to go down there, the band leader forgot their cards, which is super convenient in hindsight. Like, oh, you forgot your cards.
Cards, I don't know what they're.
Credit cards.
Okay, gotcha.
So they couldn't pay for the rental car literally on the trip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't really want to get into all the financial just issues with it, But a couple of the big ones were, we got over there and the band leader hadn't checked the fine print on when signing on to the tour, and we had to pay an extra 500 pounds, which is like $700 US, I want to say. I had to pay an extra 500 pounds to lighting and to sound a night. So that's
a night?
A night.
Damn.
That's like, it was like 24,000 American dollars for the lighting and the sound on that tour.
Oh, wow. That
had not been accounted for, had not been prepped for. So a lot of the stuff that I'm about to say is a product of that. So don't ever go into anything. Straight up my rules, don't go into anything out of state that you don't have exact day sheets for. Like, if you don't have a day sheet of, this is what we have to do at this date, this is where we will be located.
A day sheet being what? The outline of what you need, what's going on that day?
Yes.
Itinerary, basically?
Itinerary. And it's an itinerary, but I don't know, with your day sheets, it also has like people who to call for if you have any issues with any of these things. So it's just a conglomeration of resources to where, like, this is all I will need today. If I have my day sheet, if I need to go grab food and I come back and everybody's gone because I missed something, I know where everybody's at. I can either get my own Uber there, or I can call somebody and get them to come pick me up. Like, I'm not going to be in a position where I am either lost or like unable to complete my job that I'm here to do.
Right.
And so don't go flying across the country to go play because somebody said they're pretty sure they're going to make good money. And they've already got the Airbnb, but they won't let you know what the address is for the Airbnb, because then you'll get there and you might be sleeping on couch cushions on the floor, like you with a towel as a blanket.
So, from your experience doing this large month-long tour overseas, did you do that with experience of knowing what you need to do, or without experience?
I went into it assuming that I didn't have any experience. I was like, oh, this is a real deal tour. This is a month long. This isn't going to be the same thing as doing these little weekend dates. Okay. And it is. It's just larger scale. It's just you keep doing the weekend dates for a month long.
Meaning you had knowledge and then you thought, how do I put it?
I thought there was. You
thought they knew more than they did?
Yes. There was this certain sense of mystery, this certain sense of like, I'm getting into something that I am not fully prepared for. And after a week of being over there, I was like, okay, no, this is how the show goes. Like, this is what it is. This is that whenever you get in the van and you drive from Western North Carolina all the way out to Wilmington as a group, like, to go play for 30, 45 minutes, and you don't make any money, and then you drive back home. It's that, but just every day. And you don't have a home. You have Airbnbs that you're operating out of. And you don't have, I mean, in England, you didn't have air conditioning, and like, you didn't have cell service. Like, I couldn't call or text whenever I wasn't like around Wi-Fi. There's always going to be something that you can't prepare for, almost. Like, it feels like every single time that I've gone on a trip, there's always something that happens that you can't be prepared for, but all you can do is just be on your toes so that when that happens, you can adjust. Like,
I feel that the people who are running the tour, who it's their job, the artists or management of that group, should have all their ducks in a row.
Absolutely. And
they should be able to tell you exactly what's going on. And I'm curious, when you do a thing like that, and being that it was your first time like out of the country, did you talk to people who had done similar things to prep yourself, to be like, I can expect this, I can expect this, I can expect this? Or did you not have that network of people at that time?
I still don't really have that network of people. As far as like playing outside of the country, that's an opportunity that not many people really get.
Yeah.
So I don't, as far as touring, there's plenty of people that I talk to on on the regular about like what to do to be prepared. And most everybody was basically like, you know, just go into the tour knowing all of the music. You should be able to get through this month of playing these tunes without practicing them once, because there is a chance that whatever, like if you're traveling all that day, you will not get to practice them.
Sure.
Always have snacks. Always, always keep some like spare cash on you, which doesn't work for England because the United States, United States cash won't work over there.
Did you have a contract with the artist? Like this is
always sign a that was sorry that I don't know if I mentioned that before, but that was the other rule. If you don't have if you're going out of state at all, have a day sheet. Make sure you have like something that's listed with where your place of like where your temporary residence is.
You mentioned a day sheet, but I mean like a contract.
Yeah,
that was I will get paid every Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, I was circling back to where I started that.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're keeping me on track here. But yeah, day sheets and anything over $500, whether it is in state or out of state, get a contract.
Yeah.
Just because anything that's over $500 is going to be something like that's a chunk of rent right there. You know, that's bills. That's not a simple, like, your buddy told you they'd pay you $50 or $100 to go, like, sub for him at a gig at this dive bar.
Right.
Like, that's real money.
Yeah.
That's, so, I mean, that's like 10 gigs of those $50 gigs. You got to sign a contract for those, because it's really easy for somebody to shake your hand and say they're going to do something and then turn around and either one, just not do it, or two, they have something happen to where now they physically can't do it. And now you cannot get a hold of that money, because the only way that you would ever get that money is going through court, at which point then you're paying more money than you would be recouping. So there's no reason to go through all that time and hassle and trouble and waste that energy.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine just the way I think about stuff. I mean, this might be somebody, 25 years in music, 30 years in music is like, I need a contract. Like, if I'm doing something like that, I need to know how much I'm getting paid, when the money's getting deposited into my account, who's going to be accountable for what services, what happens if I get sick over there and I'm injured, whose responsibility is that at that point? How's the, you know what I mean?
Well, and all of this
every little
stuff,
thing I need outlined.
All of that stuff is stuff that would be contained within contracts, at which point then all of the contacts, the people that you would need for all of that stuff would be put into your day sheet, and you would be operating everything would be hunky-dory. But that's just not how this one ran. And because most of what I'd done before that was, let's play the Saturn Lounge in Birmingham, Alabama. There's a little event going on there, and they're going to pay us this much to play. Like, all right, sweet. This is how much we're getting paid. And then we get back and they're like, okay, this is how much the van costs. We take that off the top. Let's do that and then split it up. It's like, cool. I didn't know the van was coming off the top, but like my money really doesn't change.
Right.
But like, like $40-$50, which on a $300-$400 paycheck is a chunk, but like at the same time, it's not the end of the world, as opposed to 17 shows at $400 a show, plus like the $2,000 that I had spent in like food for the band and travel for the band and all that stuff over there. All of a sudden, that's over $8,500 that I'm in the hole for that tour. And like, that's not easy to just brush off and just move along and just be like, okay, like. And
it sounds glamorous, like you're making a ton of money, but I mean, I've watched some, and I sound like enlightened, quote unquote, with my air quotes, watching some YouTube videos about what touring guitarists make. And honestly, it doesn't sound as much as you would think. You would think, oh, these guys are making bank. And some stuff has been like, they'll get a per diem. They'll make whatever. If they're lucky, they might make $400 or $500 a show. I mean, I remember getting into a discussion with somebody on it, and I just dropped the discussion because I knew they didn't know what they were talking about. John Five, who joined Motley Crue a number of years ago, that guy shreds. Yeah, some guy said in one of the comments, oh, he's getting paid like $1 million a show. And I was like, there's no way somebody's paying him $1 million to walk out on that stage. That the whole band might be lucky to make $1 million a show.
That $1 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
$1 million is like I personally, just like sitting here, with my experience, I don't have enough experience to be able to like crapshoot that like I can up to like a couple hundred, like $100,000. I can make sense of that. I can like work that in my small little pea brain. I can't. $1 million is just too big a number for me to really like think about that, because that would be, if he's making $1 million, if he's making the lion's share of that night of that production, which is not really feasible unless he is an entrepreneur and he owns his own production company. So his production company is the one running the sound, unless he is the one who created the booking agency. So his booking agency funnels the money back to him. He underpays all of his employees. And he's got like a really, really good deal with the venues as far as the splits.
Band. That's the headline.
Well, that's what I meant by if he's the headliner, let's say he's the headliner and he sells out Madison Square Garden at 20,000 people or whatever it is, and they pay $50 a ticket, that's like $5 million, right?
Right. But you got to pay everybody else too, right? So,
but if he's got $5 million and he's only paying his guys $400 a show, and he's got 150 employees that he's paying $400 a show, that's like $6,000, $60,000. Yeah. All of these numbers, $6,000, $60,000 is for minutia compared to $1 million. You know, like it adds up, sure, but if you're talking about $5 million as a total income, and then he's playing around spending $500,000 to $1 million of it on the actual production, and let's say he got a really good 80-20 split with the venue. A venue takes $1 million. All of a sudden, he could make $3 million, but that's just it's unheard of because there's so many hands in the pie.
But I'm just saying, he's the hired gun. At that time.
He's not even the headliner?
No, he's in the main, he's in that classic rock band Motley Crue. So when he first went on tour, as far as I know, he was the hired gun guitar player to fill in for the original guitar player. And somebody had said in the comments on Facebook things like, he's getting paid like $1 million a show. And I'm like, that dude is not making $1 million. He would be lucky if he was making, I don't even know at that level what that pay is. I mean,
it depends on if he's like
if you want to be silly,
if he's a member of the band, or if he's like or if he's a hired contractor.
Yeah.
Like the business side of things is goofy because you operate, you're not just a person in the business. You are you can create a brand that is about your person.
Sure.
But then you can also create multiple companies that handle the work to make sure that you can create as the person, and be able to do the production and be able to put the show on. But there's immense amounts of money moving around, but the idea that a hired gun could be making $1 million a show is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even possible.
I think that's a lay person who doesn't know anything about the industry, just, shouting out numbers. And I was just like, that's not really what it works.
I thought he had his own band.
He does. But he had joined Motley Crue a couple of years ago.
Well, Motley Crue is also doing way bigger stuff than Madison Square Garden. They're moving way more than $5 million a night for Motley Crue.
Well, maybe, but they're also on tour with 5 other bands on a stadium tour. So they're co-headlining with like Def Leppard. So I mean, there's a lot of fingers in that pot. You've got tour trucks for this and that and the other. I mean, there's, I can't even, like I said, I can't see a hired gun making $1 million a show.
I don't know, just because, I mean, I remember hearing about in the 80s, Clapton wanted a piano player, I think it was.
Yeah.
That I can't remember the names. Maybe I'm tripping up on the names, but I think it was Clapton wanted a piano player, and the piano player was like, "No, I just had a kid. I'm trying to settle down with my family. I'm not doing the tour." And Clapton handed him a blank check and was just like, "You fill this in, whatever it would take for you to go on tour." And the tour was only 10 or 15 dates or whatever.
Right.
And he signed it for a ridiculous amount, like $10 million or something. And Clapton did it. So,
I think that's a rare experience.
But that's also 30, 40 years ago when $1 million meant a lot more. So all of a sudden, that's what I meant by when you said $1 million. I sort of wanted to preface everything I say with, this is just my opinion. I have no clue, because those numbers get so daggone big that it's not it's not real to me anymore. Unless I see it on the paper, I can't keep up with all that in my head.
Yeah. I got you. I just, and that might be an extreme example, but I think most hired guns, from my understanding, are not making as much as, you know, as people think they are. Because have you ever seen the movie, Hired Gun?
No.
Oh, dude, I gotta show you this.
Dude, text it to me. I'll check it out.
Yeah. It's all about musicians who are hired guns in bands. Everybody from like Nita Strauss, who plays with Alice Cooper. I forget his name. Jason's, something or other. He was with Mandy Moore for a while, and everybody from Liberty DeVito, who played with Billy Joel. And they were all living a life that's not really theirs. It's the artists. Do you know what I mean? And they were getting hired. So they talk about all the ins and outs of being a hired gun in a band. It's a great movie.
Well, and I don't mind being a hired gun in a band and making less than the artist, because the artist built that brand. However, I want to be brought in under the correct terms.
Yeah.
I don't want you telling me that I'm a band member and that I'm going to be treated as a band member. We're all going to be making an equal share. We're all going to be this, that, and the other.
Right.
And then that's not the case. That after the tour, like, I'm not getting paid and all of a sudden I'm not getting called back. Like, that kind of stuff. Granted, it's not just me that happens to, and there's plenty of people that happens to on a way larger scale than I do. But if you're thinking about touring, you have to approach it from two different perspectives. You have to approach it from like a professional perspective, like how is this going to further my career or financially benefit me, like from like a professional aspect. And if you can't get what you need to make, and you're probably not going to be able to get what you need, just being completely honest. I know, like, I have some friends that went on an opening tour, opening for like a big name, doing like, it was doing some dates, like arena dates, you know, like 20, 30,000 plus, like arena dates. And they were only making like 100, 150 a show for the band.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to be making way more, but then all of a sudden the manager comes in and starts putting chokeholds on the money supply, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, then where's this money actually going? Because I know that it's not going to the artist, because the artist told me that they're not making that money, that money is just going to the company for production and stuff. And it's like, I think everybody in the world needs to be as financially literate as possible nowadays, because you need to have experience in the business side of things to avoid putting yourself in a position where somebody who has more knowledge than you can take advantage of you.
Sure.
So when you're thinking about doing tours, think about yourself. Think about the tour from, if you were the manager for you. Like, not you as the instrumentalist. Like, think about if you were your manager, what would you ask for your client? Yeah. And then aside from that, if there's ever a tour that you really just want to go on because it's what you want to do, that's what the music is all about anyways. Like, if you're doing it for the experience, and at the heart of it you're just doing it because you come from a background where you didn't really get to travel as a kid. Maybe you lived your whole life in the same state, and you really only passed through, like, because you would go through for like certain events every now and again, and you just want to travel. You just want to see stuff. You want to get out of your own backyard and go see how other people are living in another chunk of the world, and hopefully make some memories in the process. Then do it, and understand that, like, it's going to hurt a little bit more than you expect it to, like, financially, energy wise. Like, it is so hard. I'm pretty sure I gained weight on tour, which was stupid, because, like, I just spent so much time having to sit in cars and sit in the dressing rooms and wait for instructions. Hurry up and wait was the name of the game. And then all of a sudden I don't have time to, like, go for a walk in the morning. Like, I don't have my discs. I can't go play disc golf. Like, I can't do stuff that's getting me active, and that's like, so it takes a drain on your body as well. And also, since I'm just sitting there the whole time, I smoke nicotine,
Yeah.
and the nicotine over there is different. They don't have the flavored vapes like they do over here. So I was smoking cigarettes over there, and cigarettes are way worse. Like, I felt worse, at least. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a lot of things that going into tour is not something you should just do lightly. But at the end of the day, for me, if it was me and my friends, and they were like, "Hey," well, if it was me and my band was like, "Hey, you wanna hop in the van and go on tour right now?" I'd do it. I don't have any money to do it. I would totally get halfway to wherever I was going and be stuck. But like, you have to keep that little bit of that like adventurous spirit alive, or you're gonna miss out on a lot of opportunities.
I think there's a lot of stuff that you have to, as a musician, you put blinders on because it's an experience sometimes, and you're willing to just do stuff for the experience of it and not the financial part. But I think as you get a little bit older and
priorities change.
Yeah. Well, not even just priorities, but I think you are more seasoned and you start to think, hey, I can't just do this for the experience anymore. I've got to, go do this. Perfect example might be like, okay, is it worth it for me for a month of my time to go somewhere for $400 a show? And let's just say round figures, you're going to make, you do 10 shows overseas and you're making $4,000. Okay, I'm going to do that in a month. All that time you're spending, could I make that same amount of money staying at home, teaching my guitar lessons and gigging my butt off?
Yeah, but would you be able to go and see the London Natural History Museum?
But I'm saying you have to weigh that. Is it the experience you're going for, or is it the money? Because at the end of the day, if you've got bills to pay and you've got a mortgage, you then at a point you're not going to do it for the job and for the living. You're going for the experience, and that's great. But you have to be clear on why you're going. Like, you might not make any money on this tour. You might have made more money staying at home if you've got a bill to pay or
100%.
whatever,
Absolutely. So, especially when you think about the fact that you're also going to be, part of your pay is going to be going towards like housing and like accommodations that you would have if you were at home.
Yeah.
You could cook at the house. You can't, but you gotta spend $20 on fast food when you're on the road. So like, I completely understand what you're saying. I just mean, if somebody, for me personally, I'm 26, about to turn 27. And I would really love to, for no other reason than I just want to see all 50 states. And it would be a good excuse to go to all 50 states. I want to gig in all 50 states.
Yeah.
As an excuse to like get me out there, because if I was just traveling for the sake of traveling, I would never travel because I don't have any money.
Right.
That's one of the reasons I really like locked in on this profession, this career. That like, making music something more than just a spiritual journey for myself, but creating something with it that can sustain a livelihood, ideally, is like the goal. Because then, like you said, you have more time to focus on the craft. But I don't know, if you're going into the touring thing, you either have to. It's the same with any gig. Either the money's got to be great, or the people got to be great, or the experience as far as like what you will learn from it or what you will gain from it. Yeah. Or like who you might meet along the way. Like, you got to have like 2 out of 3 of those things.
Sure.
You got to have, if it's not good money, but it's good people and a good experience, you're straight.
Sure.
If it's good money and a good experience, but maybe they're not your favorite people to play with, you can make that work for a night. You can make that work for a week or two.
Sure.
You can make it work for a month, but it's hard. But like, it's just deciding. You have to prioritize like where, like you're talking about. That's why I said I feel like it's your priorities change.
Yeah.
And whenever you have a family, when you have like a house, when you have a lot more responsibilities to keep up with, it's all these things that hinder you from being able to just follow what your intuition and what your gut wants to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of my most emotionally deep, like most like those moments that like really like resonate with me. Like the moments where I feel like everything's happening like exactly how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Those happen when I follow my gut, not when I'm worried about whether or not I'm going to be able to make enough money off of the thing for it to be worth it, or whether I'm going to be able to like get up the next day and make it to work on time. Like,
see, for me, it's different now. At a certain point, I always thought, how am I going to make a living doing this? And at a certain point, it was about experiences and learning. And then I don't want to say it just became about money, but when I go out and play, I'm going to get paid. I'm going to make sure I'm coming home with enough money that I need. And that's where I'm at this point in my life with it. For my artistic side, I do other stuff. Like I'll learn how to mix. I'll do podcasting. I'll write my own music and I'll do all that stuff. But if I'm strapping on a guitar to go out of my house and play, I need to get paid for it, because otherwise I got other things I could do, you know? And I think that's a point with where you get older. It's like, this is how much I'm worth at this point.
Well, but you also had to do a lot of those gigs where you did go out and play for free before you could get to the point where you were worth actually, like, where maybe you were worth it before you knew you were worth it, but like you had to know that you were worth it to be able to stand on that.
It's just time in. Like the next time you would go on tour, I doubt you would make similar.
Oh, I would sign a contract.
You wouldn't be short-sighted about stuff the next time. You would be like, I need this, and this, and this. And the first time you'd get money deposited in your account on a Friday, you'd be like, I'm not playing tomorrow because I haven't gotten paid for, tonight where I'm supposed to get paid. Why haven't I gotten paid yet?
And that literally happened. We were told that we were getting paid for the first half of tour, after the first half of tour was completed. The second half of tour, because the second half of tour was also going to count like the coming home, which was going to be expensive. We were told we might have to wait a little bit on the pay for that.
Right.
And then halfway through it, when we were over there, the band leader's like, so this is what happened with lights and sound, and now we have no money. And also, like, this Airbnb, we had 2 Airbnbs cancel on us, like, the same day that we're supposed to be checking in. So, we've already, like, paid the deposits or whatever, and then they canceled on us, and then you can't access that money because they have to go through the process of refunding it. This one's kind of funny.
And I get it, man. And that's a brotherhood and all that kind of stuff. And you're on tour and you want to be a good team player and you want things to work out because you're thinking ahead in your career, like this might be. But there's also that thing of like, man, I'd be like, in my head, the way I am, I'd be like, this has gone sideways. They don't seem to know what they're doing. This is probably the time for me to be like, hey, thanks very much. I think I need to go back. I mean, for me anyway, that's a guy who's 54 and has been through some stuff learning about it. I'd be like, yeah, bye.
I wouldn't have, I think if I would have been told, like if I had a what is it with the Ebenezer Scrooge with like the ghost of Christmas past, if I had a moment where I go to sleep and I see my past, present, and future come to me and tell me that that's going to happen, I would have still done it in a different way. I would not have spent as much money on food. I would not have looked out for the rest of the band.
Right.
I would have looked out for me, myself, and I would have gotten through that experience. I would have come back with money still in my pocket. I would have probably found ways to take advantage of the situation a little bit better because I would have put myself first as opposed to the band. Like I would have been talking to people when we did like the radio shows and stuff. I would have been shouting out myself. I would have been putting my name out there. I would have been putting my music out there. I would have, I would have been acting differently according to the fact that like I knew that I was not going to be getting any money. Right. So as long as that's like a mutually, like we know I'm not getting paid, but we know I'm going to at least put myself out there.
Yeah.
Then that's something. I mean, I basically just did that in New York a couple of weeks ago because I had a friend that got a gig in New York for a band. The band sold her on the idea that they had recorded with Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers. He like recorded a song with them. And they like grew up, they're from Brooklyn. And so they like grew up in like a similar area. They said that he's their part-time drummer. I'm like, you don't have a part-time drummer in a band. What does that mean? And I thought it was weird going into it. So I was like, I feel like these guys are trying to sell us, and I feel like we're not going to make any money at this show. But they did like a cool live stream, and there was like, they had like a decent bit of people watching. Yeah. But realistically, what they were trying to do was they were trying to use the artist who I was playing for's platform to boost their platform. They wanted to have her come be a part of it so that she, with her more followers, can like turn people onto them. She was thinking like, well, if you've got like this whole setup in Brooklyn that you've been doing for this long, and you can guarantee that you're going to have this many people come through the door, then we'll also probably at least like break even on the expenses getting there. And the band, like the way more money was spent than was recouped. So I didn't really even make anything off that one. But like, they paid for my food, they paid for my lodging, they paid for my travel. I made some friends and made some connections that listen to my music now. It's like planting a seed where if I ever go back out there with my band, like it's a difference between somebody who is trying to just be like a musician and just be an instrument that is hired to do a job, and in return you receive pay, versus somebody who is trying to be an artist and who is saying like, I want to build my platform so that I can get my message out.
Right.
And that if you're trying to build a platform to get the message out, then you're not going to be making money until you break through, as opposed to like, that's why I do both. That's why I do for hire gun gigs. And then I also do like my own music that I write and perform.
Which I want to dip into now. Is that all right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you right there, but I was like, that's a good time to get into getting your stuff. I want to kind of get into your original music. So you put out an EP. When did that EP come out?
It's my first EP. It's the only thing I've ever actually like released on streaming platforms, and that came out on December 27th, 2024.
What was it called?
It's called Moving On.
It's hard to correct the wrongs you do. God knows I'm trying. It's been a long time. Lately everything around is blue all of the time. And it reminds it's such a hard time moving on. Everything you feel like you done wrong. It's such a hard time moving on. Move on. Keep moving on. Wishing a new daydream might come true. Can make it, maybe this time. But if we let trouble hold on, it'll drive us.
So yeah, Moving On come out. What you were doing session stuff and kind of playing with other groups. Why did you feel the need to put out your stuff as original, and then why did you want to put it out under your own name rather than, put a band together and put together a band? Is there a reason?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, so I was working with that band that I did the overseas tour with in the UK, and got back and then didn't get paid. So my life kind of fell apart. I had to move back. I had to move out of Charlotte, move back in with my mom, and had to kind of restart from the ground up. All my friends, like all the gigs that I'd had consistently, like those spots were filled. Yeah. All my friends had started like grouping up into bands, and everybody was starting to get busy with their projects. Like I've been working with that band, like so mostly just that band for almost a year, because, it was at the point where if we needed something, if we needed to go to Nashville and play a gig that weekend, I needed to be ready to jump.
Right.
Whereas whenever I got back and I didn't have any money and I didn't have anything to do, I was just like, oh man, like I'm going to start making my music. Like I'm finally going to buckle down and I'm finally going to, like, all this stuff that I've been writing since I was a teenager. Like,
right.
let's get caught up.
Okay.
So I went into it with the idea that I was just going to find the cheapest way to get as many songs done as possible. And then quickly abandon that idea because I was like, I'm not going to be able to get good stuff this way.
Yeah, it's okay, man. We leave that right in. We're good. You caught it.
My apologies. And so I talked with all my friends and basically built the band. Built the song around the player, or sorry, picked the players around the song. Like built the band around the song.
Right.
Each one has a different group. There's 4 songs, and I think there's only 2 of them that have the same group. And that's Ollie's Got a Rifle and Coming Down Slow.
How long did it take you to write the 4 songs?
Well,
Have they been around for a while? I guess my point is, had they been around for a while, or were they things that you just started building around the players that you were talking to?
So they'd been around they'd been around for varying different times. Ollie's Got a Rifle came out, or like came to be whenever it was like right before COVID.
Yeah.
And it was whenever like all the school shootings were happening. Sorry, like not to be a bummer of a topic, but like it's that kind of, it was that era, and you keep hearing every single day like thoughts and prayers.
Sure.
And I'm like, we gotta be able to like do something about this. Like we gotta, and I don't know what the answer is. I think that's a huge theme in my music, is I never want to seem like I'm the person with the answers. All I want to do is make you think and feel this stuff so that you can develop your own opinions on them and your own takes. So always is really just like bringing up that question of just, why is it that people do these things? Like, if we really put ourselves in other people's shoes, are we all really that different? Like, is it that people are people that bad, or is the world just set up where certain people get put into situations that they can't take?
Right.
And if we were in those same positions, what would we do?
Sure.
That's kind of what the chorus is about. And like, yeah, it's centered around that whole school shooting thing, but it goes into everything really. It goes into war. It goes into like mass shootings. Like it's that same mentality of like, why do we do this to each other? Can
we take a listen to it?
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a quick listen to Ollie's Got a Rifle off of
Moving On.
Got a rifle, and it comes time. Well, Ollie's got a rifle, and it comes time. No good, Lord willing, no time for killing. Please, dear God, don't you stop me now. Got a rifle, come play, hey. Said Ollie's got a rifle, and he come to play, hey. Oh, see that look.
Awesome track, Nathan. Awesome track.
Thank you, Matthew.
Hey, I got a question for you. You're a younger guy than me. Are you embracing the new technology for guitars? Like all the guitar sounds on here, are those in the box? Meaning, are you using like are you using modeling amps or stuff? Are you an old school player?
Everything on this was pretty old school. It just a Supro tube amp. I had my Nags Severn, which is a basically an S style, like a Strat style, with the humbucker in the bridge. It's got the push pull, so you can also do the single coil split. But that those two were like the main, that's the platform.
Okay.
And then I had the Klon, like a Warm Audio clone that was on for some of the stuff. I can't remember if I used it on this one or whether I used the fuzz from the or the distortion, like the OMG distortion / fuzz, the Richie Kotzen one. Because I have it's called a Richie Kotzen RK5 fly rig. Like that's what I was using. Talking about modelers, when we went to the UK, I was told that we were going to rent an amp over there.
Yeah.
But that I wouldn't have room to like really bring a pedal board. So I needed to get like one pedal that basically did what I needed to do. And I didn't have, I wasn't sure if I was going to have time to like mess with stuff on my laptop. So I didn't want to get into the modeling stuff that's way too advanced, and also didn't really have all that good of a budget. So I got this thing called the Tech 21 RK5 fly rig, the Richie Kotzen version.
Okay.
It's got a clean boost. It's also a compressor. It's got a overdrive that's also a fuzz. It's got reverb. It's got an amp sim. It's got delay with tap tempo. It's got a tuner built in. It has a DI built in, so you can come XLR out of the end of it and go straight into the board. And it worked great. It did everything I needed it to do. It wasn't the same as like actually having the amp. I just love the feeling of the amplifier.
You like pushing air?
Yeah, I like pushing air. If I can get like a good monitoring setup, I could probably run like a Fractal or like run a Helix and get some really killing tones out of it. But the lack of ability to adjust on the fly would really kind of kill me. I like being able to play to the room and be able to like mess around with the tones in between songs.
Yeah.
And those on the fly adjustments always seem to be like a little bit harder for those like larger modeling processors, but they seem fine whenever you just have individual pedals that do it. So.
I just figured to ask because I know everybody, particularly since you had done session work and do some touring stuff, that some people don't want to bring an amp with them everywhere, Yeah,
and I couldn't whenever I was in the UK, but usually if I'm running something for like a recording session and somebody wants to fully manipulate the signal, I'm just running straight into the board.
Yeah.
I'll run and just use whatever plugins, whatever DSPs they have.
Gotcha.
And they can kind of sculpt it and get whatever they want out of it. I just have the input.
Okay.
My job is just to play on time and with feeling, and then they can make it sound however they need to set it wherever they want to in the song. But yeah, I don't own any of the modeling technology really. It's just, for me, it's not the same. I'd rather play just a guitar and an amp any day than a guitar and a modeler and a speaker.
Gotcha.
And I feel like it's you work with what you got and you find better stuff that way. If you have the entire universe of sound at your fingertips, you can spend all your time messing with tones and not actually ever creating anything new.
It is fun though.
It's so fun. It's so fun. And I've spent way too much time like on Reverb just looking at pedals and going through Craigslist and being like, oh man, this is a real good steal on this one. I could save $50, but it's like, it's fun and it keeps you interested and anything that makes you want to play more is always a good thing. So pedals are a good thing. Modelers are a good thing. Guthrie Govan was talking about how he's switched over, and if he can do it, I definitely should be able to.
I didn't mean to sidetrack you, but I did want to ask you more about the Moving On EP. And this was just one of those things with the recording process. So where did you record? Did you record this with the Joe May?
Yeah.
At Altamira?
Yes, sir.
Sweet. How was it? How did you enjoy working with Joe?
He's the man. Joe is a great producer. He's such like a warm and inviting presence, but he also isn't afraid to tell you when he disagrees with you.
Right.
And isn't afraid to tell you to try something to get you out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Like on Ollie's actually. So we made the way that it comes in, with the guitar intro and then the band falls in on the 2. Mm-hmm. That's not something that I wrote or intentionally put in there. That's something that we all did by accident one time.
Right.
And, it just sounded cool. So then we did it on purpose. And all of this stuff is recorded live. Like the the drums, the bass, the guitar, and the keys were all in the same room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Joe's got at his place. He has a whole room that's set up for like live band recording. So the four of us were playing in there, and I would like halfway sing, like not really sing, mainly just like kind of say lyrics or just be like, okay, and now the chorus, you know, give like MD notes kind of, so that we all stayed together. But then went in and overdubbed the solos and the vocals. And we had, so like on Ollie's, it was me on guitar vocals, it was Javier Pizarro on keys, it was Josh King from Modern Alibi on bass, and then Sam Gladstone on the drums. And that same lineup also did Coming Down Slow. And then for Little White Butterflies, we had Caleb Whitlock on the drums, Garrison Bennett on the bass, and then Joe May was on keys. And then for moving on, Joe May did keys, Jeremy Marr did bass, and John Pickett did drums. But then Javier and Garrison both did backing vocals.
Okay.
Separately. Like I kind of, I guess the term is produce those, even though I didn't like mix them or mash them. I just told them like what I needed them to do. I was like, you do this part cause I can't sing that.
Right.
And, yeah, but it was super fun. Everything was done in 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, just called the guys in, and that was kind of the goal.
That's old school, man.
That was kind of the goal. I was tired. I needed to give myself a deadline. If I didn't have that deadline to work with, I would have kept spending more money. And I know it's no shot to Joe, but Joe, as any business owner, would have let me come back in and keep spending money and keep doing it, because like I wanted to do as many songs as possible. But we talked about, he worked with me. He was like my guru through that process. He told me like, keep it simple, go with the ones, like trim the fat. Don't worry about trying to get as many songs out as possible right now. Worry about getting as good of songs as possible out right now. Like don't worry about like making anybody mad if they're not going to be on every song. Pick whoever you want to be on those songs. Don't feel like you have to, and that's why they're under my own name, really, is because I wrote the songs, I wrote the forms, but these songs will exist in other contexts and already do all the time. I play them with other bands. If I'm ever doing a sit-in gig with somebody and they're like, oh, let's do one of yours, like I do that. Sure. If there's somebody, like sometimes people cover the songs. I have my friends, Nate, TJ, and Ben, they're in a band called Oof. And they've got a record on the way sometime here in the next little bit. But they'll cover a couple of our songs, a couple of my songs, a couple of the Flood songs, like. And the idea is the band, the Flood, is a collective. Like that's not. I'm the band leader because I'm the one that put it together, but I'm really I'm really the booker. When we show up to the gigs, when we go play at like Thomas Street, or when we go play at Bowstring in Raleigh, where we're playing for like 3 hours. Yeah. When we play these longer sets, we do a couple of Javier's originals. We do a healthy dose of covers. We do a lot of jamming. We pass it back and forth, like who's picking what tune. Yeah. It's a band. But in the recording process, I don't want to be married to anybody or have anybody feel like this is my sound. Is my sound will always have this, or my sound will always have that. No, my sound will always have like me playing guitar and singing. Sure. Sometimes it won't even have me singing. I love the idea of working with other vocalists to be able to get different textures on there. That just for the best art, just to make it as good sounding as possible. But.
Well, could I ask you, did you have the same group of players on the whole album?
No. That's what I was just saying. I was saying I had the same group for two of them, and then different groups for two of the other ones. And then, so it was like a large. I listed everybody. I listed everybody off, but that was kind of confusing because I dropped a whole bunch of names. Yeah, you did. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Got to give those guys credit. So.
Yeah, I had a slew of Charlotte cats. A lot of the guys we've played together in different projects or at different jams. Cosmic Collective, one of the best bands in Charlotte, used to host a jam at Crown Station every week on Tuesday. And the jam still goes, but they don't play there anymore, so there's not as many people that come out because, like, seeing Cosmic play they're insane. I electric jazz, future jazz. I don't know. They're crazy. But that's how I met like Josh. That's how I met, I think that's how I met Caleb. I might have met Caleb at a different jam. I believe, I think that's definitely how I met Joe.
Right.
But yeah, it's a big community. The Charlotte community right now, especially for people in the age group of like 21 to like, I'd say 35-ish. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening right now. You could go to a gig and see, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but you go to a gig and see me, who's like been on tour and done things with other bands. And then right after me, you can see a drummer who plays with like Hannibal Buress from the Eric Andre show.
Right.
And like tours with like nationally known rappers. And then you can see like a keys player that has over 10 million listens on Spotify, all in the course of like an hour.
Interesting.
And nobody knows that this stuff is like really going down because everybody moves so humbly. Everybody's like so focused on just like getting where they're going and like making sure that they're uplifting the community, but they're not taking up more space than necessary. So you never really hear about Adrian Crutchfield, Prince's last saxophone player, jamming at Petra's on a Monday.
Right.
But he's there.
Yeah.
He's not always there, but he's there. You don't hear
There's
about
a lot of
like,
great musicians in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of cats here who just tear it up, and it's a very, I've said it before, it's a very what's the word, segmented or compartmentalized music scene. Like I do solo acoustic covers, and guess who most of the people I know?
The
solo acoustic cover people. Those are most of the people I know who do covers.
And you may know a couple of band members because one of them has a show where they'll do the full band,
right?
But you're only going to know those people through that person because they do that. It's like genre specific.
And I'm not so plugged into the original music scene, which is a different vibe and different group of people. And if I started doing original music more, and went out and did that, I'm sure I would bump into more people doing that. But it's like any music scene I would imagine anywhere. There's a group of jazz guys and they run the jazz group. There's the original music scene of rock stuff that kind of run their thing, and rap and that kind of thing too.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, man.
So I know it gets kind of weird sometimes because musicians who are professional musicians sometimes will feel a specific type of way about artists who are making like original music. And then I also know that it's like the flip flop. You have people that are like, oh, you're not doing what I'm doing, so you're not really doing it. Do you ever experience that as like a solo artist, having people that are like, oh, they're playing to Snug Harbor for 5 people. They're not making any money. They're writing, they don't really know how to play they don't know how to play any cover songs, or they don't know any theory. They just write their own original songs. Like, do you ever run into that at all?
I don't personally feel that way.
Yeah,
but
no,
I do know the
I know
economics of it, where if you're doing original music, chances are you're not making a bunch of money doing it.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to know that going in. But I don't feel like, and the people I know nobody looks down on anybody for, doing original music. I just know that scene is more difficult to A, get something started and getting a buzz going on, or B, making money. And for me, as we were talking about earlier, at this point in my life, I'm going to make some money, So
Absolutely.
if that means going out and playing covers, I'm happy to do that.
No, 100%.
So.
I guess the parallel would be for me, there's like jazz cats, and I say that term loosely because I don't mean like the real jazz cats. The real players are down to play. Like they just want to play. But there's the students, like we talked about earlier with the student versus teacher, that mentality, they don't see, like, there's certain people that'll judge songwriters, and I guess it comes down to tastes, but it's like, I don't know. Everybody expects everyone to be as good as them or better type in that, you know what I mean? It's that competitive nature of like not being able to appreciate the art for what it is. You only appreciate it if somebody is the the best in their field. Like, you only like watching people when they're good at something, as opposed to trying to get on, like, the people that'll, I don't know. I love the Muse open mic. I think that's a great spot. I think that's a great place for people who maybe don't want to play for 3 hours, but they want to be able to play a couple tunes. And like, maybe they don't have 45 minutes of original music, but they want to play for people and they want to resonate with people. But I know some people that will never set foot in the Muse on a Monday because they're like, it's garbage music. It's not like, people aren't that good. And I just like, I don't understand how, like, I see and hear that disconnect. We were talking about it being compartmentalized, the music scene. And I feel like that's one of the things is people always, everybody's so quick to judge, and people don't want to like try to listen and get on the same level as everyone else.
Well, that might be just, it's not so much judging in as much as open mics have a reputation of being for people who are just starting out. Not that they're not good, but, and it's more along the lines of hobbyists would show up and like, I've learned these 3 songs, or I've written these 2 songs, and you can go there. But yeah, I'm not saying that they're, I'm just saying going there to hang out, being a part of that community. Yeah. You need to, Victor Wooten talks about it. I feel like I've talked about this like 3 times, like recorded now. I feel like I just did this on a podcast the other day with my friend M for her show. Yeah.
M143, the bomb. She's the best. But Victor Wooten talks about how, whenever you're learning to speak, you learn talking to adults. You don't learn talking to other children.
Sure.
So if we don't have people that are going to these open mics and really showing these people, these hobbyists, how it's supposed to be done, they don't know that they're doing anything wrong. They don't know that they're not living up to the expectations in other people's heads.
Sure.
Because those people don't ever tell them. Like that nobody's ever like, everybody's like, oh man, that was great, sweetheart. Nobody's ever like, yo, you were a little pitchy on that one. Because nobody wants to hurt feelings because it's an open mic.
Yeah.
But it's like we almost need to be a little bit more straightforward and abrasive about stuff like that and really talk about those things, because otherwise you're not going to have the same appreciation for stuff. You're not going to realize like, oh, that girl at the open mic has only been playing guitar 6 months. The fact that she got up there and did that is crazy.
But music is a catch-22 like that. There's one part where you need to have that tough love. But it also depends on who you come out with. Because as a teacher, you probably also realize that like students will sometimes, and I've remembered this. I've had teachers, you will remember as a student sometimes the worst thing something bad that a teacher has said to you, and not all the million things. They could have said a million good things to you, but the minute they tell you something bad, that's what you remember and that's what you take away from it.
Yeah.
And if you went to an open mic, and even though your heart is in the right place and you feel like I can give this person some information and things that they should do, they might take it in the worst way, and that could possibly cause them to,
lose enthusiasm.
Yeah, lose enthusiasm and recede from it and be like, I'm not good enough. This person came to my open mic and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So that's a tough line to walk. But I mean, I have done, like I got it right there on the wall. Shannon Lee does her acoustic open mic, and I got invited a couple of years ago down and play. I was one of the featured artists, and I don't mind going down and doing an open mic. Just with my schedule these days, I'm not going to show up at Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. I'm just not doing it. I got to get up at 5 to go teach or to get ready for work. So it's tough.
And you're right. And I guess when you look at it logistically, there's a lot of reasons that it happens. It's not like one sort of thing that keeps it compartmentalized. But I was just really referencing the compartmentalization of the music scene. And it goes so far as it's not just it's not just who's better or who knows more. It's not like just knowledgeable like the jazz. You also have like the metal cats don't want to go listen to other stuff because it's not heavy enough. And like people, we don't all get together. We need more multi-genre bills. We need more people. I agree. We need more people that are open to live music, not just live rock music or live country music or live jazz music. Like,
I just went a couple of weeks ago. Elizabeth Kowalski, she was performing. I don't know if you know Elizabeth.
I'm not familiar.
She's a great lady. and somebody was doing a open mic. Well, I shouldn't say, maybe it's not open mic. It was an ambient music show over here up by me, at the Percentile, coffee ice cream place. Man, it was super cool because I'm kind of like ambient music, and I thought it was really neat. And what she did, she was performing a flute with somebody else on synthesizers.
Oh, that's wild.
And I was like, this is great, man. This is just something different, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a scene. But Charlotte's so diverse like that. And now compared to when I moved here, like back in 06, there's so much like music going on now. It's ridiculous. I don't even recognize half the names.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that many more people, and it seems like there's that many less venues.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody's fighting for less possibilities and less opportunities.
Well, my friend John's got something going on. He's trying to get some original music at this one place going on. And the more that what he's starting to get on might also be helpful to a lot of other places that want to do live music, is if they only hire original groups to come and play. And then, because you have ASCAP and BMI
right
going around, they want their money. Well, the one way I guess you can get around that is, I'm not performing anybody else's music. We're doing original music. And
I think that's what the Milestone does. Like, the Milestone has like no covers like painted on their floor. I love that place.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love covers too. I think that you learn a lot about like the instrument and what music is like through learning how other people did it. But, there's something to be said for, don't try to replay somebody else's other stuff. Like, get up here and show us what you got.
Yeah.
Like, do your thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just do you, which is awesome.
Hey, Nathan, I'm going to start wrapping up shortly, but I got a question for you. I'm asking everybody. So I want you to think about this for a second. If you were to bump into a young Nathan who is just starting to play guitar and getting into it, thinking back to when you were there to this point now, are you satisfied with your progress? Did you think you would get as far as you did playing guitar, like doing all the stuff that you do? Do you think you would be did you think a younger you would think as you're playing as well as you are and be as successful doing the stuff that you do?
Younger Nathan would. It depends on how far back you go. Like, if you go to when I first started playing, I would be amazed by what I'm doing right now. I never would have thought that I would have been playing shows, much less playing shows in other states and other countries. If you go back to like 5 years ago, like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, when I first started gigging, that Nathan would probably hate this one and would call him a sellout. He'd say he's not really. It's not the same heady, like, everything's not just. It's not just playing music in a garage with your friends anymore. Yeah. Like, there is a lot more to it now. There's a lot more to juggle as far as like trying to create stuff that has a purpose and has a cohesive like sound to it, and also building yourself as a brand and as a business and as a performer and as all these other things you have to do. I think who I like as a teenager, as a youngin, as a like 12, 13-year-old just started playing, I would be amazed. As a 19, 20-year-old, I would think I was just a sham. I would think I was, and then I would get to know me, and then I'd be like, oh wait, I can actually really play guitar.
That is the thing, you know. So did you feel you're successful? Like, I mean, at this point where you are,
I'm happy with what I've done. I'm happy with where I'm at on the journey. I am grateful for all the things that I've been able to do and all the things I will hopefully continue to be able to do. But I'm not satisfied because satisfaction is the apathy is the death of invention, man. Like, if you don't have that little monkey on your back telling you got to get better and telling you it's on to the next thing, then you're not going to keep going like you want to. And I can slow down and you know, take a recount of my memories a little bit later and just sit back and be like, yeah, I did that. Like, I'll have my moment in the future where I get to just like calm down and be like, okay, I can chill for a minute. But
Yeah.
for right now, it's just I've got my foot on the gas, and I am doing everything I can to try to get this, ideally to just get to get a music career started that will allow me the most time and the most opportunity to create the best stuff that I can. Meaning, like, I can pay people to take off work and to come do a weekend of making music instead of having to do it around their work schedule.
Right.
I can pay to have an extra day at the recording studio because those vocals aren't quite right, but like going back to Joe, that's one of the things that Joe has helped me realize is that creating music in that process is just capturing those little moments. So you need I have to go through where I'm at. I'm happy with what I've done. And I know that there's going to be times, there's a lot of time between where I'm at now and where I'm going to be able to just create whatever I want whenever I want.
Absolutely.
It's a long journey to get there, but it's all about having fun on the way and making sure to like really like on Little White Butterflies, there's a moment where my voice, I went to do a high note and it kind of cracked and I thought it sounded awful, but in listening into it in the whole thing, whenever we listened back to it, like I was laughing and I just like couldn't help, but I was just like take it a little bit less seriously. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. It just it's having fun making music with my friends.
Life is on the line.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of it's enjoyment, man. And it's those little things that in mistakes in recordings that I love. That like you listen to old school recordings from the 60s and 70s and you can hear silly stuff going on.
It's this extra color, this extra flavor that we just don't get nowadays because everything's so gridded and
perfect.
Yeah, man.
It's got to be perfect. Hey, Nathan, as we wrap things up, if people want to get in touch with Nathan Harris and find out about you more or book you for stuff, how do we get in touch with you?
If you go on Instagram, it's Nathan Harris 7. That's NathanHarris 7. And my booking email is in there. It's in the bio. It's just ndhbandbooking@gmail.com. If you guys email me, I'll probably just give you my phone number. So whatever is easiest. But yeah, I'd love to come play wherever you guys will have me, whoever may be listening.
That would be great. All right. So you guys go check out Nathan's recording on Spotify, Moving On, and go check him out live. Go check out his calendar and when he's playing. All right, Nathan, thanks, man, for coming in. Appreciate you having you.
Thank you so much, Matthew.
All right, take care, sir. Bye. Thanks for listening to episode 84 of the Queen City Music Podcast, and I hope you go back and check out past episodes. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. As always, if you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, check out our local partners, Records on the Wall at rexonthewall.com, Reporting from 20XX at reportingfrom20xx.wordpress.com, Queen City Live at Instagram.com/Queen City Live Music, Charlotte New Music at charlottenewmusic.org, and our newest local partner, Black of the Berry Lemonade at btblemonade.com. Until next month, get out there and support the local Charlotte music scene by hearing some of the talented artists who call our city home.